In the dusty streets of a small Lagos neighborhood, two little girls found something rare, true friendship. Their names were Ivy and Tolu. Though they came from different families, they were like twins, always together, always laughing, always dreaming. They met in Primary 1 on a hot afternoon when Tolu saw Ivy sitting alone with dry lips and a hungry look. Without thinking twice, Tolu took out her only sweet and gave it to her. That one act started something special. From that day they shared everything, lunchboxes, stories, secrets, even punishment. They lived just a few houses apart, and every day after school they met under the wide mango tree near the junction. It was their haven, the place they did homework, braided each other's hair, told secrets, and dreamed wildly about the future. "I'll become a big woman working in a company with AC everywhere," Tolu would say, twirling a pencil like it was a magic wand. "And I'll own my own business," Ivy replied, her eyes sparkling. "A big one, where I don't answer to anybody." They'd pinky promised to always be there for each other, sisters not by blood, but by choice. Tolu's family was better off. Her father was a bank manager, and her mother ran a supermarket. Ivy's parents sold second-hand clothes at Yaba Market, yet back then none of that mattered. Tolu didn't mind Ivy's worn shoes, and Ivy didn't envy Tolu's shiny bags. But after secondary school, their paths began to split. Tolu gained admission into a top private university. Ivy couldn't afford university right away. She started helping her parents in the market, saving, hustling, dreaming. They kept in touch for a while, but slowly the calls stopped. Messages got ignored. One day, Ivy called again, and this time the line said, "This number is no longer reachable." She sat under their mango tree alone that day, the branches above her now heavy with silence. "I guess forever doesn't mean the same thing to everyone," she whispered. "But fate, like mango seeds, knows how to grow in unexpected places." Years passed, and the world spun faster than Ivy could hold on to. While Tolu's Instagram was filled with graduation gowns, wine glasses, and filtered smiles in Dubai, Ivy was waking before dawn to help her mother at the market, then running a small roadside POS business near the bus stop by midday. It started with just one plastic chair, a tiny umbrella, and a cardboard sign. POS withdrawal and transfer, fast and reliable. With every 100 naira charged per withdrawal, Ivy scraped together what she could. Some days were better than others. There were moments her machine would go offline, or a customer would yell at her over failed transactions. But she kept going. She had learned resilience in silence. Her customers, mostly Kiki riders, traders, and students, came to like her gentle smile and honest nature. Some even called her Madam Bank. She wore simple clothes, often reused, her slippers dusty from the roadside. But her dignity was as clean as gold. She didn't care much for fancy captions or aesthetics. Her phone was filled not with selfies, but screenshots of business tips, bank alerts, and her mother's medication list. While some chased clout, Ivy chased rent, airtime, and savings. Every night she recorded her earnings in a small notebook and whispered a prayer. Then one sweltering Thursday afternoon, her world shifted. She was seated by her stand, fanning herself and sipping pure water when a black-tinted SUV pulled over just a few steps from her. She barely looked up. People parked like that all the time. But then the car door opened and high heels stepped out. Ivy's heart froze. The face was familiar. The glossed lips, the bone-straight wig, the designer shades perched perfectly. Tolu, her childhood twin, and Tolu was walking straight toward her. Not with a hug, not with joy, but with disbelief painted all over her face. Tolu stood there in her sharp, stylish, tailored outfit, a kind of outfit that smelled of air-conditioned boardrooms and power lunches. Her nails were long and red, and her perfume wafted like money. She removed her sunglasses slowly, dramatically, as if unveiling royalty. "Ivy?" she said with a smirk, blinking like she couldn't believe her eyes. Ivy stood up from her plastic chair, wiping her hands nervously on her faded skirt. "Tolu," she said softly, unsure whether to smile or cry. Tolu gave her a long, slow look from head to toe, her perfectly arched brows rising. "Wow, so it's true. Someone said you were doing POS on the road. I said, not my Ivy, not Madam Dream Big, not the one who used to draw business plans under mango trees. Ivy tried to smile. It's honest work, Tolu. Tolu chuckled, flipping her hair. No, don't get me wrong. It's cute, you know, hustle and all that. Just unexpected. Honestly, I thought you'd be in an office by now, not under an umbrella beside Danfo buses. Ivy's chest tightened, but she refused to break. I tried, she said. Things didn't go as planned. My parents got sick. School had to wait. But I couldn't just sit and wait for life. So here I am. Tolu crossed her arms. Well, I guess not everyone gets the same chances. Me, I'm with Nexa Capital now. Senior accounts officer. Just closed a 30 million deal this morning. Ivy nodded. I'm happy for you. Tolu pulled out her iPhone. Let's take a picture. Throwback Thursday, you know, for old time's sake. Before Ivy could react, click. Tolu had already taken the photo, her in corporate wear, Ivy in roadside dust. She tapped rapidly, uploading. Caption. How time flies. Some of us moved up, some stayed, grounded. Ivy looked at her. Why would you post that? Tolu smiled sweetly. It's just banter. Relax. Still love you, girl. And with that, she walked off, her heels clicking like punctuation marks on a painful sentence. Ivy sat back down slowly. Her fingers trembled, not from shame, but from the sting of betrayal. That evening, as the sun dipped behind rusted rooftops and traffic horns filled the air, Ivy sat on her thin mattress, her phone in hand, heart pounding. She opened her old classmates' WhatsApp group, Elite Class of 2015, and there it was. Tolu's photo? Her own face in full view, dusty and squinting under the sun, beside Tolu's glowing frame, and underneath it, the caption that pierced deeper with each word. Life happens. Some of us signed deals, some stayed behind POS machines. The comments came fast. No way! Ivy the brain? Omo from best in class to POS. Wahala. Book no be everything, Sha. Ivy stared at the screen until her eyes blurred with tears. She wanted to disappear, to vanish into the earth. She didn't have the strength to respond, not even to defend herself. Her chest felt tight, and for a moment she struggled to breathe. Her mother walked in, carrying a tray of soup ingredients. You've not even boiled the water for Gary, she said, noticing the look on Ivy's face. What happened? Ivy wiped her face quickly. Nothing, Mama, just tired. That night, she barely touched her food. She lay in the dark, listening to generator hums and quiet laughter from neighbors, wondering why the girl who once shared mango slices and homework answers with her could now mock her struggle so publicly. The next morning, her eyes were swollen from crying. Still, she folded her umbrella, packed her POS device and chair, and went back to her spot. Because hustle doesn't wait for heartbreak to heal. She barely noticed the black Prado that pulled up across the road. Inside the back seat of a sleek black Prado, Mr. Dare Bakare, CEO of Nexa Capital, sat in silence, his phone resting in his hand, screen dimmed, thoughts loud. He had just seen it. A WhatsApp status. From Tolu, one of his junior partners. It was a photo, a cruel one. On the left, Tolu, radiant in a tailored blazer, grinning like success itself. On the right, a girl in a faded floral dress, standing in sunlight too harsh for her tired eyes, the Lagos dust clinging to her skin like a second layer. The caption struck like a slap. Throwback, life takes us places. Some of us sign deals, some stay behind POS machines. Dare didn't chuckle. He tightened his grip on the phone, because he knew exactly what it felt like to be that girl. He grew up in Ajagunle. Raised by a widowed mother who sold puff-puff by the roadside, Dare had tasted hunger. He'd been overlooked, underestimated, dismissed. He knew that struggle didn't always come with torn clothes. It came with silent resilience, with early mornings and late nights that no one applauded. And that girl, the one in the dust, reminded him of his beginnings. She didn't look pitiful. She looked unshakable. So that morning, Dare told his driver to find her. And now, he watched through the tinted window. There she was, seated beneath a sun-bleached umbrella, her POS machine steady on a chipped wooden table. A customer stood before her, withdrawing 5,000 naira. Dare's eyes stayed on her. Ivy's hands were calm, practiced. She counted the notes twice before handing them over with a smile and a soft, "Thank you, Ma." She had no idea she was being watched, but to Dare it was already clear. The girl in the dust didn't need rescuing. She needed recognizing. Because what she carried, the quiet fire in her, it wasn't something you could buy in boardrooms. It was something you earned. And he knew he had just found gold. He tapped his driver. "Get her name quietly, and tomorrow I want her invited." The driver nodded. Back at her corner, Ivy sighed. It had been a rough morning. A man had accused her of stealing 1,000 naira due to a failed transaction, and another had refused to pay her 100 naira service fee. Still, she stayed polite. That was her rule. She looked at the spot under the mango tree across the street and sighed. It used to be their fortress, hers and Tolu's. They'd draw with sticks in the sand, dreaming of the future. Now that same friend had turned those dreams into weapons. As she prepared to close for the day, a man in plain clothes approached her and smiled. "Good afternoon. Are you Miss Ivy?" She blinked. "Yes? You've been invited to an executive breakfast at Nexa Capital tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp. Someone noticed your work." Ivy stared at him. "Nexa, what's this about?" He handed her a formal letter and walked off. She opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a note signed, "Dare Bakare, CEO. I believe in people who rise with integrity. Let's talk." Her heart skipped. Had someone finally seen her? Ivy barely slept that night. She turned the envelope over again and again, rereading the signature, like it might vanish if she blinked too hard. Her mother peeked in around 3 a.m. "You've not closed your eyes since yesterday," she whispered. "Is everything all right?" "I think something is happening, Mama," Ivy said, voice trembling. "Something big." By 5 a.m., she was up and ironing her only proper blouse. It wasn't new, but she scrubbed it clean, pressing each corner like her life depended on it. She paired it with her black skirt and the modest flats she reserved for Sundays. She arrived at Nexa Capital at 7:40 a.m., holding her breath as she walked through the tall glass doors. Everything smelled like polish and power. A cool gust of air-conditioned air kissed her face as the receptionist smiled. "Miss Ivy, you're expected. Please follow me." She was led through sparkling corridors, past sharply dressed staff, tapping on laptops and whispering in business tongues. The scent of fresh coffee floated in the air. Then the receptionist stopped at a large office. "He's waiting." Ivy's hands trembled as she knocked. "Come in," a deep voice said. Inside was a large mahogany desk, shelves filled with awards, and at the center sat Mr. Dare Bakare in a crisp blue suit. He looked up and smiled warmly. "Miss Ivy," he said, standing to shake her hand. "You look even more impressive in person." "Good morning, sir," Ivy said, voice soft but steady. He gestured gently to the seat across from him. "Please sit." Ivy lowered herself carefully, clutching her folder, unsure of what to expect. Mr. Dare leaned forward, hands folded. "I came across something recently, a post, meant to mock you." Her eyes dropped. "It was a really bad day, sir. But what I saw wasn't weakness," he said, voice calm. "I saw composure, grace, dignity in the face of humiliation. You didn't lash out. You didn't fold. That told me more about your character than any CV ever could." She looked up, hesitant, listening. "I believe stories like yours matter," he continued. "And I believe girls need someone who's walked that dusty path, not just studied it." He paused, then smiled. "How would you feel about leading a financial literacy pilot for young women? We'll start with POS training, budgeting, savings, and ethics. You'll earn a monthly stipend, and I'll personally mentor you." Ivy blinked, stunned. "Sir, me?" "Yes, Ivy," Dare said firmly. "Because you didn't just survive the struggle. You carried it with integrity. That's what leadership looks like." Her eyes filled with tears, not from pain this time, but from being seen. By the time Ivy stepped out of Nexa Capital's front doors, her world had already shifted. She stood on the pavement, staring at the busy Lagos street like it was brand new. The buses still honked, hawkers still shouted. But something inside her had changed. She was no longer just the girl by the roadside with a POS machine. She was a woman with a purpose and a platform. She walked back home in a daze, letter in hand, feet light, heart pounding. Her mother was outside spreading washed wrappers on a line when Ivy arrived. "Mama," she whispered. Her mother turned. "How was it?" Ivy grinned, eyes shimmering. "He offered me a position. I'll be teaching financial skills, training girls, and I'll be paid." Her mother froze, then slowly sat down, tears spilling. "You see, my daughter, you didn't bend, God saw you." That night, Ivy posted something simple on her WhatsApp status. "Sometimes your pain becomes your power. Grateful." She didn't mention names, but Tolu saw it. She'd been scrolling late at night, trying to drown the guilt and unease that had been creeping in since that photo incident. She hadn't expected the backlash, not just from strangers, but from two of her superiors at Nexa who quietly questioned her judgment. And now this. What had Ivy done to deserve such a platform? Still, pride made her scoff. "Let her teach POS now, as long as it's not Nexa HQ," she muttered, tossing her phone aside. The next morning, Tolu walked into the office in her usual stride, heels clicking, chin high, only to see a poster on the lobby wall. "Empowering Women Through Street Finance. Lead facilitator, Miss Ivy Ocon." Hosted by Nexa Capital. Her heart stopped. No way. But yes, the same girl she laughed at was now Nexa's face of empowerment. Tolu stood frozen, eyes locked on the poster. Her heart thudded like war drums in her chest. Around her, co-workers walked past, barely sparing her a glance. But to Tolu, the room felt like it was spinning. Ivy's photo on the poster wasn't edited or glamorous. It was real. A simple image of her smiling in front of her old POS stand, holding a notebook. And yet, it radiated strength. Tolu tore her gaze away and stormed toward the elevator. As the doors closed behind her, shame clawed at her throat. How did she get here? What does Mr. Bakary even see in her? Meanwhile, Ivy stood on a modest platform in one of Nexa's seminar halls, wearing a neatly tailored Ankara dress and low heels. Before her sat 25 young women from different parts of Lagos, some hawkers, some hairdressers, some like her, former roadside agents. She cleared her throat nervously. "My name is Ivy. I didn't come here from a big office. I came from a plastic chair under the sun. I used to charge 100 naira per withdrawal. But every transaction taught me something about people and about myself." The women listened, nodding, some already taking notes. "In this class, I won't just teach you how to operate a POS. I'll teach you how to handle money, track expenses, and dream beyond your umbrella." Applause broke out. Mr. Bakare, standing in the back, smiled proudly. "She doesn't speak with ego," he said to his board members. "She speaks with experience." Upstairs, Tolu watched from a glass panel, her jaw clenched. And yet something inside her twisted, not just jealousy but regret. Because deep down she knew Ivy earned this, and she, Tolu, had thrown away something priceless for pride. But life, as Ivy once said, has a funny way of bringing people full circle. That evening, as the last light faded from the Lagos sky, Tolu sat alone in her office, the Nexa Capital building now strangely silent. She stared at her screen, but the words on her report blurred. Her mind kept flashing back to Ivy's voice. "I came from a plastic chair under the sun." She remembered the days they used to sit under the mango tree, solving math problems and drawing big plans on scraps of paper. Back then, Ivy was the dreamer, the quiet fighter, the one who taught Tolu to save her allowance instead of spending it on meat pie and coke. How had she forgotten all that? And how did she become the girl who mocked the very person who helped shape her? Her phone buzzed. A message from her aunt. "Ivy is doing amazing things. You two used to be close, right? You must be so proud of her." Tolu stared at it, her stomach turning. Proud? She hadn't even said sorry. Meanwhile, Ivy was heading home in a keke nepep, exhausted but glowing. Her hands still smelled faintly of paper and sanitizer from the training session, but her heart was full. The women had clapped when she ended. One of them even hugged her and whispered, "You've given me hope again." Hope? That was all Ivy ever wanted to be. A light, not just for herself, but for others who'd been overlooked. She reached home and hugged her mother tightly. "Mama, they want me to lead a second session next month. Bigger one. They'll bring girls from Ibadan and Port Harcourt too." Her mother kissed her forehead. "My daughter, the same girl they laughed at. Look at you now." Back at Nexa, Tolu finally stood up, walked to the restroom, and stared into the mirror. Her reflection didn't smile. It asked questions. Would Ivy forgive me? Would I forgive me? 3 days passed. Tolu tried to bury herself in work, client meetings, proposals, spreadsheets, but nothing erased the image of Ivy standing confidently before a room full of women. The girl she once dismissed, now inspiring dozens. Finally, she opened WhatsApp and clicked on Ivy's name. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Typing, deleting, typing again. Then she sent. "Ivy, can we talk, please?" No reply, not for hours. But late at night, a soft ding came. "Tomorrow, after my training, 3 p.m. Nexa Cafe." Tolu's chest tightened. She arrived at the cafe early, hands sweaty, heart unsure. Ivy walked in exactly at 3, wearing a simple top skirt and calm grace. She didn't smile, but she didn't frown either. "Hi," Tolu said, standing up quickly. "Thank you for coming." Ivy nodded and sat. I've been thinking a lot," Tolu began, voice shaky, "about what I did, what I posted, the way I treated you." Ivy looked at her silent. Tolu's eyes welled up. "I was arrogant. I forgot where we came from. I mocked the very struggle I used to admire. And the worst part, I hurt someone who once called me sister." Ivy finally spoke, her voice low. "Why, Tolu?" Tolu swallowed hard. "Because I thought success was about status, appearances. I forgot that real value isn't loud. It's consistent. And you were always consistent." A long silence stretched between them. Then Ivy said quietly, "Do you know I cried for days after that post?" Tolu nodded, tears slipping. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it." Ivy exhaled deeply. "I forgave you the day I realized your mockery came from emptiness, not evil. But Tolu, you have to change." Tolu nodded quickly. "I want to, I'm ready." For the first time, Ivy smiled faintly. "Then let's start again. No mango tree this time. But we've got good chairs now." Tolu laughed softly through her tears. And just like that, a crack of light returned between them. The days that followed were humbling for Tolu. She showed up, not as the girl with perfect lashes and power heels, but as someone eager to listen, to unlearn, and to try again. With Ivy's help, she joined the next training, not as a speaker but as a volunteer. She took notes, arranged chairs, handed out refreshments, and listened from the back of the room as Ivy taught girls from Mushin, Surulere, and Agege how to turn a 50,000 naira POS machine into a stepping stone. During one session, Ivy asked the group, "What's the most powerful lesson you've learned from failure?" Tolu raised her hand. Ivy paused, surprised, but nodded. "Go ahead." Tolu stood, heart pounding. "I learned that when you forget your roots, success becomes empty. I hurt someone I love, but today I'm learning again. About dignity, about rebuilding, and about the kind of woman I want to be." The room clapped. After the session, a teenage girl approached her. "Auntie, I thought girls like you only cared about slay and selfies," she said, "but now I see you different." Tolu knelt slightly and took the girl's hand. "Trust me, I used to care about only that too. But life teaches better lessons than filters ever can." Later that evening, Tolu and Ivy sat on a bench outside the training center, sipping Zobo. "You've changed," Ivy said quietly. "I'm still changing," Tolu replied, "but for once I like who I'm becoming." Ivy smiled. "You're earning your peace." "I want to do more," Tolu said suddenly. "Maybe help girls who lost their jobs or dropped out, start something small." Ivy looked at her with pride. "We can build something together. This time no mockery, no pride." Tolu nodded, her voice steady. "This time only purpose." Weeks turned into months, and what started as a simple roadside hustle had now bloomed into a movement. Ivy's program, Street to Strength, was gaining attention. Blogs wrote about it. Local radio invited her for interviews. Even the State Ministry of Youth Development requested a partnership. But Ivy remained grounded. She still walked to her former POS corner some mornings to greet the market women who had once trusted her with 1,000 naira notes. She reminded herself daily, "I started here." Tolu, too, had changed. She sold most of her designer bags, invested in small starter kits for 3 young women, 2 POS agents, 1 hairdresser. She called it Project Rise Again. And together, Ivy and Tolu began co-hosting weekend workshops in low-income areas. Tolu would share her story of failure and pride, while Ivy showed the practical steps to rise. One Saturday, after a powerful session in Ecotun, a woman approached them, widowed with 3 kids, holding a torn notepad. "I have nothing," she said, "but I want to try. Even if it's pure water I start with." Ivy took her hand. "You're already rich in mindset, the rest will follow." That night, they sat in Ivy's small but warm apartment, eating boiled corn and watching streetlights flicker outside. "You know," Tolu said, "there was a time I thought life was about handbags and hashtags. And I thought dignity needed a degree," Ivy added with a smile. They both laughed. "You think people will ever stop mocking roadside businesses?" Tolu asked. "No," Ivy said. "But now we've shown it's not about where you start, it's about how you stand." Tolu nodded slowly. "And who you stand with?" Outside, the mango tree still stood at the old junction, and beneath it, 2 young girls' dreams had finally come true. Not with noise, not with pride, but with purpose, patience, and love. A year later, the neighborhood where it all began was buzzing with excitement. Colorful banners waved in the wind, reading, "From street corner to legacy, celebrating women who rise." Evie and Tolu were being honored by the local council and a coalition of youth leaders. A modest stage had been set under the same mango tree they once sat beneath as children. But today, the crowd wasn't just classmates or neighbors. It was a sea of inspired faces, from local vendors to government officials. Evie stood at the microphone, dressed in a simple white dress with green embroidery. She looked out at the faces, her mother wiping tears in the front row, the young girls they had trained, and even former classmates who once laughed behind screens. She smiled and began, "I used to sit under this tree with my best friend and dream of a future where we would build something beautiful together. Life took us through pain, pride, and a lot of silence. But we came back. Not to prove anything, but to plant new seeds." The crowd erupted in applause. Then it was Tolu's turn. She stepped forward, her voice softer, more vulnerable than ever before. "I once forgot who I was. I let pride speak louder than love. I mocked the very journey I now treasure. But today I stand beside a woman who could have shut the door on me, and instead she opened a new one. Ivy, thank you for not giving up on the girl I used to be." Tears filled Ivy's eyes as they embraced. A group of girls from the Street to Strength program came forward holding a framed photo. Ivy and Tolu as children, under the mango tree, smiling with chalk on their hands. Beneath it was inscribed, "Real friendship doesn't fail. It sometimes forgets, but it remembers again when purpose calls." As the sun set and music filled the air, Ivy and Tolu stood side by side, stronger than they'd ever been. Not just childhood friends. Not just businesswomen, but builders of hope, living proof that grace is louder than gossip, and that from the dust of roadside dreams, golden legacies can rise. The end. If you loved this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more captivating stories like this one.